Hello there, and welcome back to We the People Term Limits. I'm Clive Gray, and I'm here with my co-host, Debbie Peterson, the previous mayor of Grover Beach, as well as an accomplished businesswoman and the author of this fine book, The Happiest Corruption. And I encourage you to read it because it's a microcosm of what's going on in the federal government. Maybe you have a better description of it, Debbie.
Hey, Fred, thanks. I appreciate that. So when you had my book up there, I noticed you're wearing a new shirt, but I can't read all of it. Lean back.
Yes,
What's it say?
It's our new T-shirt. It says, "It's time for term limits, we the people." And I wear this around. And if you're interested in getting a T-shirt, let us know and we'll get one to you. Yeah, it's a great conversation piece, and it really drives home our point of term limits. Don't vote for anybody 13 years or longer in the House or the Senate.
So we can get those on the website, right? At the We the People Term Limits website?
That is correct. That is correct. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. You're more of a techie person than I am. Everyone knows I'm a face-to-face guy, but with the help of all you fine people, you remind me that we are on in cyberspace, actually. But yes.
So let me try repeating it then. We the people termlimits.com. Is that right?
That is correct. And ultimately, we will have hats as well. So we're working on that. We're getting ready for the street fair in Napomo on December 3rd, where we will actually have a booth and talk to people. And with that, we're going to get into our Hall of Shamers. And today we have one I think everyone knows. That would be Nancy Pelosi. Who doesn't know this woman? All right, today we're talking about Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House. And she's a major player out of California. And, I'm going to talk to you guys, but I'm going to start with Liberty and let you take a bite out of this one. What do you think about Nancy Pelosi?
So, Nancy, there's only one word that comes to mind. And so the word is old. So I looked up the meaning of the word old in my dictionary, and I found out that old means of long duration. That's one of the definitions. And so the other thing I did was I looked up insider trading in my dictionary, and it didn't say anything. It just had a picture of Nancy. So we have an old of long duration Speaker of the House, Nancy. She's not even a good speaker anymore. I mean, have you ever heard her bark for a treat? I haven't. Speak, Nancy, speak. Woof.
That was pretty good. That was pretty good. And she is actually one of the wealthiest politicians around due to that insider trading. What do you think about that, Kristen?
Well, I have to tell you, she's definitely a go-getter. I mean, I was reading her history, and I have to say, as far as somebody being tenacious, I have a lot of respect for that. However, and I happen to like a lot of the things that she stands for in terms of anti-gun violence and the environment. Love the fact that she's the first Speaker of the House. But when she was elected, does anybody remember baby Jessica, who was in the well and had to be rescued? I mean,
yes.
That's how long ago she was initially put into an office. And the first compact computer came out that you could allegedly carry around, but it weighed like 1,000 pounds. I'm with Liberty on this one. I think that the ship has sailed, and she's overserved her term.
Yes. Yeah, and many people don't seem to realize that her nephew is Governor Gavin Newsom.
I did not know that.
Yes, in fact, it was her husband, who had the DUI, is most likely going to be pardoned by Governor Newsom. What do you think about that, Debbie?
You're on mute, Deb.
You're muted.
I apologize. I have our other guest on the phone. He's searching for a link, so I apologize. I'm multitasking here. I have to say I'm kind of disappointed in Pelosi. I was in office for, mayor and council member for 7, 8, 9 years, 10 years, a long time. And during that time, I never once saw her. She never came. And every single other representative made a point of getting to know the elected officials at the city and county level because they wanted to know how to represent the people who live there. So I'm not sure she's really representing us.
I would have to agree with that. And, what I'm really interested in is Joe's perspective on it, because, you guys are literally decades apart. So what's your perspective on her?
Yeah, Clive. I mean, not only decades, but in terms of net worth, hundreds of millions of dollars apart. Nancy Pelosi is one of the richest politicians serving right now in the US. And yet she was so against conflicts of interest and making sure that, our representatives weren't in the pockets of wealthy trusts and different third parties that are trying to, bribe and get certain boons out of our representatives. That seems fishy to me. I'd like to talk a little bit about the Stop Trading on Congressional Knowledge Act, which is supposed to help prevent lawmakers from engaging in that sort of behavior. But in fact, it only results in fines of about $200. And when the fines are that low and the politicians that you're supposed to be targeting are that wealthy, $200 out of a net worth of $135 million is just not even a dent. Therefore, I'm not surprised if she seems out of touch, Debbie. She's got everything, and the only thing that would be there to prevent her from acting corruptly is a tiny slap on the wrist of her immense fortune. So I definitely think it is time to get someone new in office.
Indeed. And, that fine equates to about $200 for every million she makes. And I would take that investment all day long. Well, that was an interesting discussion. I especially like Liberty's take on things. And so we're going to move on to our next person, Kevin McCarthy, the House Minority Leader.
Can I jump in just a little bit, Clive, before we do that? I wanted to introduce L.J. Stead, who I think you'll be seeing today as LA Man. And if you listen very, very carefully, you might hear that he didn't originate in LA, but he's there now, and it's appropriate for him to be there. At least a few of us who are speaking about Pelosi and McCarthy are actually Californians. And I wanted to raise another thing. I was just here scrolling through some of my texts. The Pasadena News did a really interesting article on in October 23rd, about behested payments. And I don't know if that's relevant at all to Pelosi or McCarthy. I think it may be more for state elected officials, but we did mention her nephew, Pelosi's nephew. And I would recommend that people read that, because I think it's another kind of a dodge where people can do campaign money. So Google the Pasadena News and behested payments, and you'll be even better educated than you are already. And I'll shut up with that now, Clive, and let everyone get on with it.
No, that's great information. And that's what we're here to help disseminate information to the public so they really know what's going on with these Hall of Shamers. And so now we'll move on to Kevin McCarthy. All right. And the next Hall of Shamer is going to be Kevin McCarthy. And I'm not going to say too much about it because we have an extra guest. LJ, welcome. Thank you for joining us. And I'm going to start with Joe because, again, you have a different perspective than most of us because you're the new generation coming up and you're quite articulate. So take it away.
Thank you, Clive. What I'll talk about when it comes to Mr. McCarthy is his campaign on commitment to America. I was reading through some of the things, the promises that he stated to voters, such as an economy that's strong, a nation that's safe, a future that's built on freedom, a government that's accountable. All very good aims, I would say, but no specific policy to back them up. I would think that with his 15 years of experience in office, he could list some actual steps that he would take to achieve those goals. But during his campaign, not so much. Recently, under Joe Biden's presidency, he's been very critical of the policies that Biden has enacted, since they're from different parties, but he hasn't really given any alternatives as to what he would do in Biden's place. Personally, I believe that if you are going to say that someone's not doing something correctly, it's always best, especially when you're in a position of power like an elected representative, to have a counter plan, to have an alternative that your voters can say, okay, this is something a road we want to go down or a road we don't want to go down. If the only thing you have in common with your voters is the fact that you disagree with someone else, I just don't think you can represent their interests very well.
I would have to agree with that. And again, well said. What do you think about that, Kristen?
Well, I think there's a couple of things that I'm not fond of with him, but let me first say I appreciate the fact that he's been in office for 15 years compared to the others. I suppose that's not bad yet. I'm with Joe in that empty promises are words, 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 right? And he is a close supporter, or was, of Trump, and I think that that's very consistent, right? Words, 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 but words matter. And if we're going to put it out there, let's deliver. And I think that the voters and his constituents expect that. He's been in Bakersfield this whole time. Maybe that's the issue. Maybe he's got to get out of the farmland and move on. California is a big state. You can't base all your decisions and all your hopes and dreams out of Bakersfield. It just doesn't work that way.
Indeed, yeah, where the population mass is in Southern California. So you want to take a bite out of that one, Liberty?
Sure, Clive. As a hound who's for humanity, I'm familiar with leadership, but Kevin, he's a minority leader. And my dictionary says a leader is a featured article of merchandise sold at a loss in order to draw customers. So Kevin's a minor item to be sold at a loss. Why would the voters want that? Tell me, Clive, why would we vote for him instead of some new blood?
I don't know, but you're one of the smartest dogs I've ever met. That was impressive. What are your thoughts on that, Debbie?
I'm going to say, hey, big spender. He's apparently one of the biggest spenders in terms of what he approves and what he goes for in the Senate. And, that kind of worries me because I'm a fiscal conservative and he claims to be one, but he doesn't appear to put his money where his mouth is. So I would like to say, let's get someone in who is a fiscal conservative. I don't care what party they are, but I know that most people agree with me that we want to be careful about our money, especially right now.
Yes, indeed. And before I forget, I have to refer back to Liberty. And I've never heard of the dictionary, but I think that's great. Let me know where I can get one of those. I'd really like to see all the meanings in that one. And with that, we're going to go to our newest guest, LJ. Give us your thoughts on all this.
Yeah, I think anytime that someone's been in office that long and you still within California and they've still struggled to help, bridge the divide and what people are thinking, that's always, I think, a problem. And, I think a person like that, instead of always trying to say they're local and say they care about the individuals that are in their community, as they stay in Washington all these years, I think you have to kind of figure out hey, why don't you actually get back to those local roots if you care so much about it? You don't only have to serve from those positions.
Indeed. All right. Well, that kind of wraps up for now. I'd really like to see that dictionary. I bet it has a lot of dog-eared pages on it. What do you think, Debbie?
Yeah, I'd like to see that too. So you know how I am. I like my numbers and my facts. So I'm going to leave everybody with one more set of facts that they can look at. I heard an incredible TED Talk a few days ago. It's called We the People and the Republic We Must Reclaim. And it talks about who gives the money. And 60% of the super PAC dollars, this was for the 2012 election. I bet it's not much different now, but 60% of the super PAC dollars, and that's who really supports Pelosi, McCarthy, and all these big long-term politicians, was given by, I'm going to give you a chance. How many Americans do you think donated that 60% of the super PAC money? Clive, what do you think? How many Americans?
Less than 1%.
Less than 1%, yet it was 0.000042%,
Wow.
which is 132 Americans gave 60% of the super PAC money.
Wow.
So although I've been saying I'm happy to have people make money, no problem with that, but there's a problem when 132 Americans are determining where we're going as Americans.
I agree, because they're essentially buying votes and buying political positions. And that's the reason we're on here, because we are about using your vote to control the Congress. And the simple issue here is, don't vote for anybody running their 13th year. If we all would join forces and do that and use the power of our vote, we can actually clean out the Congress, because they will never do it for themselves. They may talk about it, but it never goes beyond the floor. So with that, thank you for joining us. I'm Clive Gray with my co-host, Debbie.